welcome back to Comic Book Issues. I'm your host, Brian Heinz, the Last Angry Geek. And it's time for the August pull list. What I'm reading and whether or not you should read it. A really simple concept. And hey, be sure to check out my Patreon page. Every dime donated goes to helping get these shows made. Just the dimes. Pennies, nickels, quarters, dollars, I keep. But the dimes definitely go towards this show. Anyway, we've got a 5-issue episode because it's one of those rare months where we have 5 Wednesdays instead of 4. So, happens about twice a year. Let's dive in. The first week, Doomsday Clock, number 6. I keep waiting for this book to suck, and it doesn't suck. On paper, this should be an awful idea. The Watchmen meet the DC Universe. But it's by one of the great current creative teams, Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. I've been fans of theirs ever since they did the Legion of Superheroes in Superman and Action Comics. They're doing the Batman Earth 1 books. Whenever these guys get together, they just create magic. They did the Shazam origin for the DCNU, which was one of the few good DCNU reads. The new Shazam book coming out is going to be based on that. These guys just keep striking gold. Okay, we're nearly halfway through Doomsday Clock. Still no sign of Dr. Manhattan or what his plans for the DC Universe are. This issue gives us the origin of the new Watchmen characters that Jeff Johns created, the Mime and Marionette. It's a kind of a sick and twisted love story, but these characters are so devoted to each other. It shows how they got placed in terrible situations back in the Watchmen universe, and to survive they had to become monsters, but still at their heart they're two people in love and trying to do the right thing by each other. They had to become these killers to survive. And it's just kind of a fascinating flashback issue as we explore who they are and what made them this way. My recommendation to you, buy this book. I know we're halfway through. Don't wait for the trade paperbacks. Pick it up now. This is one of those really, really good books that you should be reading. The art's great. The writing's great. On the face of things, this should have been a concept doomed to fail, but it's been remarkably good. I keep wanting to read that next issue. Read Doomsday Clock. Hey, for week 2, it's Adventures of the Super Sons #1. Now, this was an extremely popular book that followed the son of Batman, Damian, and the son of Superman, John. Unfortunately, when Brian took over the Superman titles, the first thing he did was write out John. So, what do we do with Super Sons? It had to be canceled, but we can bring this extremely popular title back with one word: flashback. This book is placed just a little bit out of continuity, and we're reading the untold tales of Damian and John before John went off into space. The best thing about this is Peter Tomasi's writing. He really gets both characters. John's naive optimism and inexperience is balanced nicely against Damian's superiority complex and his overprepared nature. He took his time in the previous Super Sons to build up their friendship. At first they hated each other, they were fighting all the time. Now they're best buds. The art is okay, it doesn't thrill me. Carlo Barberi knows how to draw kids well enough that he can handle this book. At the end of this first issue, they encounter a bunch of kids dressed up like DC villains. Now, it's a bit obvious for the title, but I'll give Tomasi the benefit of the doubt because I was such a fan of the previous Super Sons run. My recommendation? Read this book. It's a lot of fun, and there's no heavy lifting required to enjoy it. You can just start fresh and learn everything you need to know in the first issue. Also, it's a 12-issue miniseries, so there's time to get in on the ground floor, as it were. Also, if you like this title, good news! There's an entire previous volume of Super Sons for you to read and enjoy by the same author. For week 3, it's the Spider-Man Annual #1. Now, this is important because it's the first solo Miles Morales story that Brian Bendis did not write since he left for DC. And it's also filling in a necessary gap in Miles' history. When they folded the Ultimate Universe into the Marvel Universe proper, the 616 universe during Secret Wars, Miles became part of the main Marvel Universe. Now, Bendis never explained how that happened, how that origin worked in the 616 universe. We were just left to assume everything went the same as we saw it in the Ultimate Universe. Miles' uncle stole a genetically altered spider, it bit him, and he got these powers. This shows that the first time Miles became Spider-Man in the 616 universe was during Secret Invasion. The story is told in a flashback and framed around Miles fighting Morbius in modern day, and that's drawn by original Ultimate Spider-Man artist Mark Bagley. So it's nice to have him there because it gives us that connection to the previous golden age of Ultimate Spider-Man. This is a kind of a morality story that tries to be consequential but does that by introducing and disposing of several new characters. That's the only way you can do this kind of flashback story, but unfortunately, it makes the story feel inconsequential because you've got these incredibly important characters to Miles' origin who we then never hear about again in the past issues. But obviously, since they were introduced now, they can't be in the past issues. But since they were so important to Miles' past, they should have affected his present and future. It's a whole timey-wimey thing, and it's also the catch-22 of revamping an origin story after the character already has such a long-established history. The main art by Nelson Blake is decent, and Bagley shines as usual. The backup tale of Gonki, Miles' best friend and confidant, and I apologize if I mispronounced that, taking a driver's ed course and then helping Spider-Man to catch some bad guys is completely inconsequential and not very fun. It's filler. My recommendation, skip it. While I'm happy to finally know how Miles started interacting with the proper Marvel Universe, there's nothing important or entertaining here. It's mostly harmless. Infinity Wars #2 is our Week 4 read, and I have not been keeping up with the Infinity Wars prequels. There have been a lot of books setting up this miniseries, and I haven't read any of them. What I know is there's a new group of Earth-based Marvel heroes in possession of the Infinity Gems. Adam Warlock is back. He's alive again. Beyond that, I'm going into this dark. The Zero issue, the prequel issue, showed us a new character called Requiem, and she kills Thanos. The first issue then basically shows us the new Infinity Watch gathering to discuss the fate of the gems. Requiem then arrives and kills Star-Lord to get the Soul Gem, as we learn it's really Gamora, who previously lost part of her soul to the Soul Gem. This issue starts with a flashback to Gamora's life with Thanos, a la the Infinity War movie. Doctor Strange uses the Time Stone to save Star-Lord. Gamora then starts taking down heroes left and right, leading to the full team of Avengers taking her on. This whole issue is one long fight scene and basically shows why Gamora has earned the title of the most dangerous woman in the galaxy. Now, I really like these first couple of issues, but Marvel events have a history of starting strong and then going nowhere. Also, we're currently in a glut of non-consequential events. I'm using the word non-consequential a lot today, I know that. Crossover books that promise a lot but deliver nothing. Infinity Wars, Death of the Inhumans. Heck, I'm probably more invested in the classic X-Men going back in time in Extermination. Recommendation? Kind of a hard one. Like I said, I enjoyed this issue, but I'm going to go with wait for the collection. I like the art, and the story is plenty of action and fun. I just feel like it's going to end up being pretty unimportant to the Marvel Universe as a whole. Maybe I'll be wrong. I don't know. Finally, last up for Week 5 is West Coast Avengers #1. And this book shows how the team is well assembled. They reuse the old video confessional thing to frame the story. The idea was original back in DNA's run on Guardians of the Galaxy, but now it just seems a bit cliched. America, Kate Bishop Hawkeye, and her boyfriend Fuse, who I think is likely the Absorbing Man's son, bring in Clint Hawkeye to take on a swarm of land sharks. 4-legged land sharks. Kate's got this sort of defeatist attitude in the book that I'm not really sure works for the character, but is a leftover from Thompson's earlier Hawkeye title. She whines a lot. I like the more positive can-do Kate from Young Avengers and the Fraction Hawkeye book. Most of the relationships seem to be in relation to Kate Bishop. Kate and Fuse are a sweet couple. This book is a little too Kate-centric for the first issue. That said, the humor for this book works. The ridiculous superhero situations work. It's one of those dysfunctional, functional teams. Stefano Caselli's art is very polished and suits the title. I'm not sure if this feels like an Avengers book yet. Feels more like Marvel's just trying to slap the West Coast Avengers name on a title since it's not currently being used. This feels more like a sister book to Champions. It's another teen hero book. Recommendation. This is another hard one. The first issue had a lot of fun and excitement right off the bat. Good humor, a working if dysfunctional team. Based on that, I'd say read it. But Kelly Thompson's Hawkeye was never one of my favorite reads, and she's going to have to work on making the rest of the team just as important to the story as Kate. Otherwise, I can see this title fizzling out really quick. And that's it for the August pull list. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you back here next month for the September pull list. Be sure to check out my Patreon. Like and subscribe down below on the YouTube page, not on me, actually. Until next time, this is Comic Book Issues. I'm your host, Brian Heinz, the Last Angry Geek.